And good morning. I'm Dennis Sheehan. I'm one of the personal trainers at the Johnny Chafee Fitness Center, Naval Station, Newport. This is the training tips segment of our remote video presentations. You know, the other instructors do actual exercising. These training tips are meant to be exactly what they say, trying to give you some information that might help you train more effectively and efficiently. All of our remote sessions are brought to you by USAA, and you can see that we are getting in the Christmas spirit here. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to photobomb this. Yeah, there you go. So we got two things going on there. All right, so I've talked in the past about the importance of ankle mobility. Let's start at the very bottom. And if you lack ankle mobility, it can hinder your walking, your running, your squatting, okay? Ankle mobility is really crucial. So we have to have sufficient ankle mobility, and then we have to have roughly the same amount of mobility on both sides of our body. Right? We've talked in the past about ways of measuring that. You can go into a half kneeling position and see how far your knee translates forward. You can either measure the distance, for instance, or you can use the inclinometer on your phone to measure the angle that your foot makes when if you're in this position, right? We can either measure how far you can go forward. So if you're, say, at least 4 to 5 inches away from the wall and you can touch the wall here, let's pretend this is the wall, all right? That's 5 or 6 inches. If I can do that, all right, then I probably have sufficient mobility. I want to do it on both sides, right? Or we can measure the angle here, right? What is this angle? Should be roughly in the neighborhood of 40 degrees, right? Would be sufficient. Okay. So what I wanted to do then today was talk about ways of improving your ankle mobility, and we'll start with soft tissue work. So, this is a lacrosse ball. You could use a tennis ball. And, what you want to do is roll the ball on the bottom of your foot, right? Your plantar fascia is connected here. And so, getting it to be mobile, if you will, slippery, slidey, is a good thing. Some of you, I'm sure, have had plantar fasciitis. I've had that too, and that, comes from a variety of causes, but generally one of the things that can help is this soft tissue work. The density of the ball can either help or hinder. This is a lacrosse ball. It's fairly dense, and so, if I put a fair amount of pressure on this foot, it can be a little bit painful or uncomfortable, at least. So you might want to start with a softer ball if you haven't done this before. And the idea is not to put as much pressure on this as possible and bear it down, right? Foam rolling like this is not a foam roller, but it's self-myofascial release is the general term, right? You're trying to might be uncomfortable, but not painful, right? So you're trying to get your foot to mold around the ball, not jam the ball into your foot. Okay, so I know this is a nice thing to do because, or it's an easy thing to do, I guess. It may not be nice, but it's easy. You can sit on the couch or you can sit in a chair and you have a ball underneath your foot and you roll it around, right? And these lacrosse balls and tennis balls, they're cheap. You can buy a can of 3, 4, 5, 6 of them and have them around the house and do it that way. All right. The other thing that you want to do, it can be helpful, is to actually spread Spread your toes, manipulate your toes. So, get some flexibility in there, because, what happens is your toes, when you walk, act as a little bit of a spring in a sense, right? So, your toes are supposed to be, slightly like this, not like this, so that when you hit the ground, they spread out and compress a little bit, and then, as you come off, your toes naturally rise up. But, if you've been wearing shoes that, compress your toes and maybe, force them like this, like if you wear heels, for instance, you're jamming your toes down like that, they are not going to be very good at spreading out and compressing. And so, you may lose the mobility in these joints down here. So doing this kind of thing, you should do it while you're sitting down, right, is a good idea. I'm going to show you one other thing, which I actually am wearing, totally weird. All right. These are little toe spreaders, which I got from one of my physical therapists, which I was somewhat skeptical of, okay? And I swear by them now. So, I just put them on in between your toes, and that helps spread your toes out. If you're going to wear them with shoes, you need a shoe with a wide toe box here, right? So, yeah, so it would, it looks like this essentially, right? And if you see the bottom of these shoes, you can see that it resembles this. These are not made by the same people, but the idea of these shoes is, in fact, to be able to spread your toes out like that. Okay, so yeah, if you Google toe spreaders, you can find these, or if you have a physical therapist that I'm sure they can find them for you. I'll put my shoes and socks back on now. All right, so otherwise I have cold feet. Okay, so, work on your feet first, right? Start at the very bottom and work on your feet. Get some mobility in those toe joints, manipulate them, work around. Roll the plantar fascia. And then we come up, right, the chain here. What you want to be doing next is, thinking about your calf muscles, right? The soleus muscle is kind of in the middle there, and then the gastroc, gastrocnemius muscles, there's an inside one and an outside one. The gastroc muscles cross the knee joint, all right? So they're different than the soleus, right? But they're those three muscles that are your calf muscles. And you want to roll those. So, you're just going to go back and forth here, rolling. And, you want to roll to the inside. You want to roll to the outside so that you get all three muscles, right? If you're going right down the middle, you're getting mostly the soleus muscle. You roll to the inside, you're getting that inside gastroc, gastrocnemius, and then the outside one, the lateral gastroc, okay? You might find a tender point. In that case, just hold in that point, maybe some small movements, but try and hold in that point for, 15, 20, up to maybe 30 seconds, and that pressure will generally, the pressure that you're putting on it, right on that tender spot, will generally help to relieve the little trigger point, the knot, the sensitivity there, and allow the muscle to return to normal. And then you can also actually move. So I generally use one leg for extra pressure. Right? I'm going to take it away just so you can see. So in the last variation of this, while you're on a spot, you can do some ankle circles or just dorsiflex, flex and extend your ankle, right? You're working the muscles while it's under some pressure, which can, again, generally help with foam rolling if you actually put the joint that the muscles are attached to, put that joint through some movement, right? And if you don't like foam rollers, here's a stick. You can do essentially the same thing, maybe even more. Now, the issue with the stick is it's easy to just sort of go, oh yeah, I'm doing it, and not exert any pressure, right? It takes some both strength and willpower to actively press there and roll it, right? Instead of just lightly gliding over it. Lightly gliding might feel nice, but it's almost certainly not going to do anything for your muscles, right? So you bend your legs so that your muscles are loose, and then you are rolling it. When I roll, I can feel there's a little trigger point or sensitive point right there, right? And so again, I could try and hold some pressure on that and go through go through the movements, okay? So that does it for soft tissue work, right? Soft tissue work is, foam rolling using balls, sticks, right? Now, the manipulating your toes around is not soft tissue work. That's actually joint mobilization. So that is different than other things we discuss, right? In joint mobilization, you are actually trying to get those joints to, move more and better, right? Now, the couple of things then you can do is progressions here. The next step, you've gone soft tissue work, now we do stretches. So, one is just the standard soleus stretch, and I would usually do this up against the wall, right? So when you bend the knee, you are gonna get more of a soleus stretch. If you straighten your leg out, now you're stretching your gastrocnemius, your gastroc muscles, right? So by bending it, your knee, we take the gastroc out because the gastroc crosses the knee. So now I've relaxed the gastroc and I'm stretching the soleus, which is, goes from here to here, right? And so, this kind of thing, keeping your heel on the ground and just sinking into it is a soleus stretch. This one is the gastroc stretch. So straight leg, you should feel the stretch usually up here. With the soleus, it's usually down here. Okay? All right, so those are a couple of stretches that you can do. We talked earlier about ankle circles when you were on the foam roller. These can be a good mobility exercise. Okay? So now we're trying to take the ankle through its motion, right? We might go flex it, plantar flex, dorsiflex, right? Extend, flexion. We might do ankle circles in both directions, right? So in there we are trying to loosen up that ankle joint, okay? All right, so that's some stretches and some ankle mobility. Then the last thing we can do are maybe more strength related. So, when you dorsiflex your ankle, which is really important, right? Think about walking and running, right? As the leg goes back, that ankle has to dorsiflex. And if it doesn't, right, the ankle is not telling, or the brain, ankle, hip, gluteus, all need to be connected, right? And so if you lack ankle dorsiflexion, and you can only go like this, the brain doesn't know that you're actually trying to, push off, right? Your flexing the ankle is what tells the brain, I need to go now into extension here, right, as I push off, right? And so, if you lack ankle dorsiflexion, that's not a good idea. So that's a problem, right? So we can strengthen the muscles that lead to ankle dorsiflexion. So, one of the things you can do is simply, dorsiflex your ankle, a little isometric thing. Just, hold it up, right? You don't have to hold it up in the air. Bring your foot towards you, right? And hold it for a few seconds, release it. Bring it back, hold it for a few seconds, release it. You should feel it right in here, right? You should feel those muscles, tibialis muscles, tighten up, right? Again, both sides, remember both sides. You can walk on your heels. And, it might actually be better if I took my shoes off to do this. All right, so I'm not going to bother taking them off because it'll just take time to put them on again. So, come up on your heels and just do a little walk on your heels, right? Holding your ankles up like that requires strength, and you're developing that strength. And then the last thing, which is both a strength and a mobility exercise, is a goblet squat. So I've got a kettlebell. You could use a dumbbell, right? I'm in the squat position. My feet are about hip width apart. My legs are about hip width apart, right? My feet are slightly turned out. That's a personal preference thing. People differ about where their feet are going to be. All right, I'm holding the kettlebell by the handles here, right? And I'm just going to sink into a squat, right? So I can rest my elbows basically roughly on my knees, right? And now, if I go back and forth here, I can definitely feel that testing my ankle mobility, okay? And so, you might rock back, you might pry out a little bit. That's good for your hips. And this kind of leaning over to one side is an ankle mobility drill. Again, remember, do both sides. See, on this side, I can feel my heel come up. So I definitely have less mobility on this side than on this side. There's a little bit of difference that I do work on. And now, when you do this, right, try to maintain good squat form. So, you're going to go down. Try to keep your spine neutral. Don't do this. Do not, right? Try to maintain neutral spine. And, as I said, you might move back and forth on your ankles while you're down there. Just remembering that you want to maintain that neutral spine so that you protect yourself there. All right? So those are some ankle things. I encourage you to both check your ankle mobility and then really do work on it if you lack sufficient ankle mobility, because I guarantee you that if you lack ankle mobility, you'll eventually end up with problems that are up the kinetic chain. You'll end up with knee problems, right? You'll end up with low back problems. Especially if you're a runner, check your ankle mobility. All right? Till next time, see you later.